The 2012 James W. McLamore Outstanding Volunteer Award, presented to Lauren Book and Ron Book.
It was really important to share my story that happened when I was a very young girl, because I knew that we could change this negative experience and make it a positive one. When I first shared with my family what had happened to me, being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse from the time that I was 11 until I was 16 at the hands of my female nanny, I really wanted to show people that it does happen to the blonde-haired, green-eyed girl who lives in a gated community. All those gates in the private schools don't necessarily protect you from this. Sexual abuse cuts across all socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural, religion, it matters not. The biggest risk factor of being a victim of childhood sexual abuse is being a child. And that sounds so scary, but it's true. And from those terrible experiences and kind of doing all the reading that we did and research, learning that 95% of sexual abuse is preventable with education and awareness, and that 1 in 3 young girls and 1 in 5 young boys will be sexually assaulted before they're 18. I knew, even though I'm not really great at math, that wasn't good math, and that we needed to do more than what we were doing in the state of Florida and across the country and across the world, quite frankly. So we started the Lawrence Kids Foundation.
That's why we do what we do. See what happens when you get caught up in it. You realize you deal with your own. She thinks she's the only one that does flashbacks. Some others do flashbacks too, and you think back from where we've come and where we are. You ask why volunteerism. You ask how we got where we got. It's about just knowing what she went through and not wanting anybody else to do it. If she didn't have the commitment to do this, I'd still be doing it. You talk about how you get high in life. You get high by watching and being proud of your child growing into something that's overcome adversity, overcome tragedy, gotten an education, gotten another education, going to get another education.
I've got 2.
You're going to get 3. You talk about how you get up every day and you field phone calls, and emails, hundreds of them every day. We think we've stopped her taking middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls. She has a problem not picking up the phone. But when you get a phone call from New Jersey and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody's about to commit suicide, you sit back and you got to say, wow, it's just,
The 2012 Julia Tuttle Award for Community Involvement and Corporate Citizenship, presented to BB&T.
And, I think that probably goes back to our roots. We started 140 years ago in a little town in North Carolina called Wilson, North Carolina, and grew throughout the small North Carolina towns throughout the 1800s and 1900s. And then probably our most significant acquisition was when we did a merger of equals and moved into Winston-Salem. And then in the early 90s, we moved into the neighboring states of Virginia and South Carolina and Kentucky and West Virginia. And I think just spreading throughout those small towns, your communities was your clients were your neighbors. You knew almost everybody in those towns, and they became your clients. So by committing to your clients, you were committing to help those communities grow. You had to do it. And so that was kind of our base model to work from, and then we just expanded that as we moved more into the metropolitan areas of Washington, D.C. and Atlanta, and now Miami, Florida. I know a lot of companies align themselves with a specific charity and maybe run a campaign for that specific charity, but what that allowed our employees to do, we had some rules that we could not make a donation directly to the charity. We would provide materials, we would spend money on things that helped that charity as long as our employees got involved with that charity. So that way, employees got to pick causes that they were passionate about. Some were passionate about the underprivileged, some were passionate about education, some were passionate about the arts, but it became what the employee was passionate about, not what senior management or the bank itself was passionate about. And so we had a lot more success with a program like that, and I think the unintended consequence of it was that the charities benefited because the employees stayed engaged far longer than just going out that day and dropping off a check. They did work with the organization, got to know the organization, and then stayed involved with that organization many times for years afterwards. Here in Miami-Dade, we've been in the market since 2009 when we acquired Colonial Bank, and we've done 10 projects over the last 3 years. We tend to do 3 or 4 projects a year. And we've worked with a variety of organizations. On the educational front, we've worked with the YMCA of Greater Miami to do some after-school tutoring and to provide tennis shoes for underprivileged children. For the homeless organizations, we've repainted the campuses of both Camilla's House, their Naranja campus, and Chapman Partnerships North Miami campus. And in the arts, we've worked with the New World Symphony when they do their annual concert where they partner their fellows with high school and grade school bands throughout the Miami Beach area. All told, we've probably done over 13,000 hours of community service just in the past year, and I guess over the past 3 years, probably close to 40,000 hours of community service. My favorite project was probably for an organization that's near and dear to my heart, Chapman Partnership. I got to know Chapman early on when I came down here. At the time, was not ready to serve on their board because I was brand new to the community and trying to get the bank up and running, but they were good enough to have me a couple years later when I approached them and said I was interested in becoming a member of the Chapman Partnership Board. Throughout the project, I learned my painting skills were not that strong, that I was definitely in the right career. But you know, one of the things I like about Chapman Partnership is they share a lot of the values with BB&T. They do have a very high success rate of rehabilitating the people that come in there, getting them in there, finding them employment when they can find them employment, and getting them successfully into housing. And you know, I think that's 2 core values of BB&T. You have to be a high achiever to work at BB&T, but we're compassionate about that. We're compassionate about our employees, and they're compassionate about their constituents. So they have a high success rate, but they have a high success rate because they've successfully rehabilitated those individuals, not because they've just pushed them out at the end of some designated time period.
The 2012 Outstanding Grantmaker Award, presented to the Anthony R. Abraham Foundation.
Well, you know, my father, he came from nothing, and he came from a family that was very, very poor, and he was very blessed, and he was looked upon by his family because of his success as the godfather of the family, and he always kept his feet on the ground, and I never heard him once say that he felt more powerful or more important than anybody else, and he never liked the fact of having to be acknowledged for what he was doing in the community. So, you know, my dad's philosophy was, was very basic. He was an honest, religious, God-fearing person who loved this country and who wanted to give back so much because of the blessings that he had. So from my father's perspective, it was a matter of duty and honor to pay respect to those who helped him along the way, and also because he was so blessed and he had an opportunity to become very successful in his life, he wanted to share that with those individuals in need. And so he reached out and, participated in, and he's one of the co-founders of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital with Danny Thomas, and a great group of guys. We call them the single eagles that were flying with Danny that helped him launch St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So when we lived in the house as children, we were indoctrinated into understanding the importance of giving back, and the importance of being respectful of those in need, and never looking down on people, because you never know when that situation would come upon you in life that you need somebody, you need some help.
So I think that's it. Just keep that going. Be proud of your community and what you can do for your own sake that you want to do. It's got to be from the heart. I always tell all my nieces and my nephews that want to help me and talk about, different things with me. What are you doing? Oh, come on, help out, volunteer. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's well put. I mean, I think the legacy really is how you affect the people closest to you, and I'm talking about our family,
Right.
And how our family will, take the responsibility, amongst themselves to continue what our fathers started and what we're doing, and hopefully that we can hand it off to the next generation, and they will hand it off to the next generation with the same compassion, the same empathy, the same love, the same dedication, and the same the hope that whatever they're doing will impact other people's lives. And I think that's the legacy, is that it's not the legacy about us. I mean, I know that Norma and I, neither one of us or anybody on our board is interested about our individual names. In fact, the legacy should be the Anthony Abraham Foundation and family doing their part. And so if we do our job right, hopefully we can impact our children, because it's not, you can't assume that anything in life. And, hopefully by example, and hopefully by the fact that they see what we're doing, that we can pass, that same compassion and love for sharing our success with those in the next generation. And I think that's the legacy that we need to look for, is how do we impact our own kids and the next generation, and how do they impact it? And can they continue what we've started and what our fathers started? That's the legacy I'm concerned about, passing that on.
The 2012 Outstanding Philanthropist Award, presented to Christine E. Lynn.
Well, philanthropy to me is, in really one word, is all about caring to me. And if you're fortunate enough to give and support someone else and make their life easier, I'm all for that, because you're fortunate enough to give to benefit the charity that you're involved in. Helping others is the greatest feeling that you can get in your heart. And not only that, but it also brings tears of joy. I'm originally from Norway, and I married my husband, who really truly was the philanthropist in the family, because in Norway I'd never heard of philanthropy. It's a socialized country and everything is basically paid for. So when I came to the United States and my husband told me about philanthropy, I wasn't quite sure about what he meant. And if I could tell you a little story, we were married maybe a month, and he hadn't seen me go shopping, and he says, "You got to go shopping." And I said, "Okay." So I came back with a pair of shoes for $125. And he says, "Oh, that's great. Wow, what did you buy?" "A pair of shoes for $125. He says, he was a little, "Really, $125? And I thought, my first faux pas as a wife. Have you ever heard of Payless? And I thought, oh. And then the next day, he tells me he gives $50,000 away to a charity. I just could not comprehend what he was talking about, but I do now. And I'm just really following in his footsteps of charities that he has supported for many years. And it's decades later, 30 years later, I see them grow, are successful, benefiting others, their families. It's a wonderful feeling, and I'm still young enough that I've said to many of my doctors, if you keep me alive a long time, I'll do a lot more. I would like to be remembered as a very good, loyal person that did so many wonderful deeds for others. And I couldn't ask for a better thing if I had 5 minutes left to live, to know that I